Exciting, impulsive recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to an extremely impulsive, podcasty type thing. I don't know what you'd call it, really. How do you define a podcast? I don't know. I'm going to call it one. Because I've been meaning to have, I've been feeling the itch for more podcasty type content, to use the YouTuber lingo, for some time, and I just really felt this morning like recording something. Maybe it's just that I like the sound of my own voice, although that's very, very not true. I like to think I like the sound of my own voice. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. Anyway, whatever I end up calling this possible series of possible podcasts, or whatever else they're called, this particular one, I felt like talking about something, and I decided to talk about hype. Specifically game hype, but I see it in other things too. It's I don't like to say I'm a prophet. I don't like to say I have magical, clairvoyant powers. But I totally fucking called several things. I totally fucking called SimCity 2013, or DRM City as I call it. I totally fucking called that being a disaster on launch, after Diablo 3 had similar DRM and just died on launch until they fixed it. I totally fucking called No Man's Sky getting overhyped and under-delivering as a result. Please don't crucify me if you're a No Man's Sky fan. It's okay to not like things, but let's not be dicks about it. I'm just saying, totally, completely called that there would be a controversy surrounding that, is all I'm saying. I should have said this sooner. I like to avoid generalizations. I like to avoid personal attacks. I'm just saying, I saw the controversy from far away. I also totally fucking called Arkham Knight, specifically the PC port in this case, being a complete mess. Have they ever fully fixed it? I don't know. I haven't bothered looking into that game because the PC port was such a mess. It gets to the point with all the, I can understand if you're a game company why you'd want to push pre-order bonuses and all that shit. I can understand from a business perspective why you would want to do that. So part of me wants to blame the companies for releasing crappy games and relying on pre-order hype and all these things. And then there's arguably deceptive advertising, Colonial Marines also was a mess. But when it happens enough times and it becomes so predictable to the point where something big hype comes out and isn't a mess to some degree, when it becomes so predictable, there's a point at which I have to say it's not just the company's fault anymore that people are falling for this, It's not coming out of the blue anymore. People have to... When Colonial Marines still sells tons of copies, there's a problem, And that was 3 years ago, and I feel like the problem has not gone away. What I do these days? I'm completely cynical these days. I'm completely unhyped anymore. Even for, there've been several games I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll wait and see what happens. I may or may not look at the promotional material. I may or may not look at reviews, but I will wait and see what happens, because there's no goddamn point in getting hyped up, because that just raises my expectations. Case in point, Titanfall. Titanfall was a game I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. You can run around and there's robots and it's all good. It sounds like a worthy spin-off of the Call of Duty sort of formula. Came out, and it was really good. Short-lived in its, it's a very kind of, high-quality, low stamina, I'd call it, But because I didn't look at the hype, because I didn't buy into it all, I think part of it these days is the whole, anytime anything is somewhat console exclusive, even though it completely, totally wasn't in No Man's Sky and Titanfall's case, because there's that partial exclusivity that it's only on one of the consoles and also PC, but only one of the consoles, that kind of feeds into the hype culture. And this stuff has always been about, this stuff has always been around. I just think maybe it's just getting more high profile, you know? I tend to be one of those people who says, just because I've just become aware of something, that doesn't mean it hasn't always been a problem to some degree. Maybe it's only now just becoming more apparent or more ridiculous or something. And, you know, it's just like with DRM City, we knew it was going to have that always online connection literally about a year before the game came out. That was a news story. So, sure, EA shouldn't have put the DRM in. Sure, they should have made sure the servers fucking worked. You can say all of those things, but equally, why would you buy it on day one? Why would you pre-order if you had any understanding? I'm not talking about boycotting here, I'm just talking about, oh, I would like to play this game, but I would like it to also work when I buy it. If people had waited one day, they would have seen what a freaking mess it was. With Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins, before it was a bit of a mess, at least on PC, and they famously said, Warner Brothers, oh, we could fix all those bugs, but we're gonna tell our developer to develop more DLC for people to buy instead. It's almost like the more they push pre-orders, the more skeptical we should all be, you know? We should all be like, do not. I'm straying into things. There's not much I can say on this topic that hasn't been said, but I feel like it's still a problem. It's worth repeating the criticisms if the problem isn't going away. It's when people get kind of burned out on, oh, why are you still complaining about this social problem? Oh, everyone always says this. I'm like, because it's still a problem. It hasn't gone away. If it wasn't a problem anymore, we would stop talking about it. God, I'm sure there was another one. I'm sure I'm thinking of another one. Mafia 3, I think, had some significant technical problems. There's no point in calling out any more examples, really, just because it's happened so many times. I suppose what's the moral of the story I'm trying to ramble towards is... I'm trying to say this without being pompous, but be like me! Be like me. Play behind the curve, you know. There are problems with reviews. There are problems with even bloody Let's Plays on YouTube these days. There's been so many controversies like the Shadow of Mordor thing, which was ridiculous, because Shadow of Mordor was a good game. Why did they need to rely on shady marketing deals when it was a good game? I don't understand. But there's problems with reviews, there's problems with Let's Play stuff, but at least that when you're seeing footage and it's someone who's played it, you know, you can say, ah, that is a reasonable thing. Although, I meant to say also, Total War games. I like Total War games. I've had a lot of fun with them. I would never fucking buy one within a month of it coming out because, Jesus Christ, almost like clockwork. Empire Total War was a mess. Great reviews, despite being a total mess, so not sure what's going on there. Total Rome 2 was possibly an even bigger mess. Still got great reviews. What is going on with these things? I guess literally what it probably is just when you're a professional reviewer, you only have so much time you can spend on each game. And if there are problems with a game that only become apparent certain ways in, you're just not going to be able to reflect that in your review. I love the feature on Steam reviews. Not the best place to get information, but as a kind of starting point, it can be quite good. Because if there's a significant technical problem with a game, it usually becomes quickly apparent in the negative reviews. I do like the Steam reviews thing they have, which is what I was trying to get to, is they force you to show on your review how long of the game you've played. Now, obviously, that doesn't factor in maybe you played a different version of the game, or maybe you played it on a non-Steam version before. But if someone puts up a review and says, yeah, it's really great, or yeah, it's really sucky, and they've only played... I've seen people post with literally 0.1 hours. I don't understand that mindset of people who just play... They seem to have literally played the tutorial menu, and then they go, ah, yes, it's a great game! It's like, what did they get out of that? I don't get what they get out of just, you know... Oh no, I remember back in the days on game trailers... People could post... I think on game trailers, people could post reviews of games that hadn't come out yet. I'm thinking, why? That's a terrible feature. Terrible feature. Oh. And just because I'm rambling about this, you know what I also hate in game marketing is when there's a quote in a game advert and it's in the future tense. It'll say something like, "This is one of the most promising games of this year," and I'm like, that's not the best example, but I've literally seen quotes that are in the future tense from some magazine, and I'm like, that's clearly a preview quote. That's clearly like, oh, well, I was at E3 and I played 5 minutes of this and it seemed pretty pretty promising. That's a preview quote that you're now trying to sell. The suggestion is that it's a review, and I'm like, that is bullshit, marketers, bullshit. Don't exercise cynicism. I was trying to say earlier without sounding pompous, be like me, be like me, be like how I very rarely buy games soon after they come out, partly because I don't think it is an exceptional game that's worth full price. I think something like Dark Souls would be worth full price to me just because that's a stupidly phenomenal game, if you ask me. Stuff like Skyrim, partly just because it represents such a raw raw number value of content. But most games, I'm like, I got Titanfall for 15 quid because I bought it a year after it came out. I got all the map packs with that as well because they just bundled it all together under 15 quid, and I'm like, hey, I'm very happy with my 15 quid purchase. Sunk like 50 hours or something into that. The only reason I don't play more of it is because it takes up bloody 50 gig on my hard drive for some reason. I'm like, what's that about? I gotta like bloody move all my other shit onto a different drive just to reinstall your fucking shooter game. Apparently, I won't go on about this, but apparently the theory is that it's because they have all the uncompressed audio files from the campaign in all the different languages, and they don't give you an option not to install the ones you don't need. I'm like, if it's on there with 5 languages, why would I install the other 4 ones I can't understand? I don't know. Uncompressed audio. That's definitely a tangent I've gone on. Let's wrap this up, people. Be like me in the least patronising and pompous way possible. I play games without getting hyped up, without being, oh, I must buy it today, especially since so many games come out with such huge launch problems, and they take weeks, if ever, to get fixed. Games are cheaper if you're patient. They often work better, like I said. You actually have some idea what you're getting into. Now, there are some games where getting in on the ground floor, like any sort of multiplayer focused thing, obviously if you're there earlier, you are going to probably have a better shot at being part of a community. I can understand with multiplayer stuff it gets a bit wazzier. But here's the thing: if you don't get your hopes up, you can only be pleasantly surprised. That's one of the mantras I like to use in life. I think it's one of the wisest phrases there ever was. And it's very, very apt with gaming at the moment. It's not just gaming, I see this with bloody movies and everything as well. I don't understand, this is a stereotype. The stereotype, I'm on Tumblr, so I'm speaking, I can own this as a stereotype. The stereotypical Tumblr post that's like, oh my god, upcoming superhero movie, I'm so excited, I'm hyper-analysing the trailer, and I'm like, all you're doing is working yourself up into a tizzy, and one of two things will happen. Either it's not as good as you think and you'll be disappointed, or you're so excited you will just forgive all of its flaws. And maybe that's the lesser evil, is that, if you can just enjoy something regardless of its flaws, that's fine. I guess I have mixed feelings on that side of things, but for me at least, it's almost always the opposite problem of just too much hype, too high expectations. Yahtzee of Zero Punctuation fame actually did a very good graph. I've become northern. Very good graph on this, which was like, no hype, game is good. Hooray! Lots of hype, game is good, all is well. No hype, game is shit, suicide! Somewhat exaggeration, but, I think there was also no hype, game is shit, smug self-satisfaction, which is my default state of being, as you might have guessed. So the moral of the story is, exercise cynicism. These companies don't owe you your faith, their trust, or the opposite way round. You know, you do not owe them anything. You do not have to be like, oh, sure, I'll buy your season pass. Oh, season passes. Season passes are a whole other topic. I just can't even get my head around. It's like, I don't trust almost any company that much to be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll pay in advance for content you haven't even like necessarily planned yet. You know, shovel out any old crap. Exercise cynicism. Be patient. You know, these are not hard and fast rules. I'm just saying, I think me as a flawed human being, I'm not. Unlike Jim Sterling, you do not have to thank God for me. I'm but a simple, flawed human being with an opinion. But I think it's quite an informed opinion at this point. I've spent playing games most of my life and you see patterns. You see patterns. That sounds so conspiracy nut, doesn't it? But be trying to wrap this up for 5 minutes. So let's just say, be cynical. Do not rush. Wait a day after launch and see what like the pre-order bonuses are so rarely worth it. You know, look at a game like Terraria, which cost like 15 quid when it came out, is even cheaper now and has inconceivably vastly more content than it did when it came out, and I think they're still adding. They just added a patch recently, like 5 years later. It's insane. There are so many better options than being a day one purchaser, especially in the AAA market where it's too expensive, can't be justified. You need a fucking spreadsheet to figure out which DLC you're getting with your Watch Dogs Special Edition. You know. So I hope you enjoyed that completely impulsive little ramble. And I guess tell me what you think of just doing more rambly podcasty things. I would like to get people, a semi-regular podcast series which actually had some people other than me on it. That would be good. It would be nice to be able to say, hi, I'm your host Jaz, and here's this other person. Whereas if I just said, hi, I'm your host Jaz, it would seem a bit redundant because there's literally no one else here. Yeah, I would like to settle on a name. Maybe by the time you see this, I will have settled on a name. I need a name that's like catchy and original, but not necessarily game exclusive, because I want to talk about movies and shit too. Ooh, wow. These are the challenges ahead of us, folks. This is a tough life. And once again, I haven't thought of an ending, so I'll just say, sod off, you lovely people. Don't buy video games.